Okay, on page 6, we're going to continue with part C, and we're going to go to changes to and from the equity method. Okay, so for example, let's say you own 20% of an investment, and it was considered non-strategic, or 18%, 15%, something like that. Well, if you bought more shares and it pushed you over the 20% mark, in absence of the question saying anything about control and stuff, you would have to switch methods to the equity method when you owned more than 20%. Or your circumstances changed. Let's say you did own 20%, but you had no significant influence, or even 22%. Everybody else coordinated in blocks, so your 22% meant nothing because someone else owned 40 and someone else owned 30 and 8. Okay? So, in that case, you do what's appropriate. You treat it as a passive investment. But then, let's say all those people sold off their shares and all of a sudden you were left holding 19% and else was spread out. Well, do you have some significant influence then? Yeah, so you'd have to change to significant influence and use the equity method for IFRS. So let's look at this. So if the underlying facts change, of course your class can change. So someone who holds fair value through profit or loss purchases additional shares, which requires a change to the equity method. Or an investor who used to hold significant ownership at 21% might find someone else has purchased a large percentage, reducing the first investor's influence. So, the first investor may be required to switch from the equity method to fair value through profit or loss, or OCI, and it's recorded on a percent basis. So new information has come up and you go forward from there. So when switching from the fair value through profit, so a fair value method, you could easily put OCI. I tend not to muck around with OCI when we're doing this. When switching from fair value method to the equity method, on the date of change, update the investment value to fair value, like if it's mid-year. If it's end of the year, it's already just been done, so you don't need to worry. Now, you own more percentage. It's possible circumstances change, but it's also possible you bought more shares. So if you need to, record the purchase of additional shares, and then proceed with the entries for the equity method, recording dividends and net income. Okay? Date of change, put it to fair value, record shares if you need to, then do your entries. So on the next page, we'll sample. Okay, fair value to equity method. Wheeler owns 15% of Jackson, and the investment has been classified as FV through profit and loss. Why is it a passive investment? Because this tells us it's non-strategic. And it's been classified. They have to tell us whether it's fair value through profit or loss or OCI, so they're going to tell us this anyway. The investment in Jackson had a balance of $528 on the December 31st year 3 balance sheet. Okay, so tell me, is this the fair value at the end of December on the balance sheet? Yes, because that's what we do. We mark all our investments to fair value that are FVTPL. Now, on January 1st, year 4, Wheeler purchased 20% more. So how much does Wheeler, which is us, own now? 15 plus 20 equals 35%. So, right off the bat, what do we know? Yeah, we have significant influence. So, during year 4, Jackson recorded net income of $800,000, paid dividends of $90,000. Those are our two entries we have to do. And it tells you the fair value of the investments totaled $1.5 million. Okay. Now remember on the other page, what did I say, last videos, what did I say about non-fair value methods? What do we have to check them for? Check for impairment. Right? So, generally on a question, especially on a test, it will specifically say check for impairment, but in life in general, non-fair value methods have to be checked for impairment. Okay. So, let's do the entries. So, when's the date of the change? This is the date of change. Because they just want year 4. And what do we have to do when we're switching from fair value to equity method? On the date of change, make it fair value. We don't need to adjust to fair value. It was just done yesterday. And it equals 528. Everybody okay with that? Okay, so now what happened January 1st? And you could have put this first, and actually you didn't even need this because it was just a description. Okay, January 1st, what happened? We bought more shares. So we debit investment, not common shares because they're not our shares, and credit cash, and $704,000. Now we own 35%. Use equity method. Okay, so we get to December 31st. It's year end. And there's two things I have to do entries for. Okay, what are the two things? Dividends and net income. So let's see what we did for dividends. Did we get any? Was it in cash or just declared? Well, they paid dividends of $90,000. So we're going to get cash and credit. What do we credit? The investment account. You can just call it investment. Okay, so that's 90,000, right? No, it's 90,000 times 35%, which is 31,500, 31,500. And remember, if only declared, dividends payable, sorry, receivable. Okay, now what else do we have to record? Net income from associate. So, if they have net income, what happens to investment? It goes up. By 800,000 times 0.35. What was their new account? Equity, method, income, and that's 280,000. Now, you guys, what if they had a net loss? Then what would you do? Yeah, a net loss would be reversed. So now we have to adjust it to fair value, right? Do we adjust these to fair value? No. So don't adjust to fair value every year, but check for impairment. Now, you guys learned impairment in 315. So I don't want you to go to a lot of energy memorizing all those models again, right? All the different scenarios. All I just want to do is remind you what impairment is. So we know the fair value of the investment. They tell us up here at 1.5 million. We have to compare that, the balance in the T account. So, in the T account, we start off with 528 way up at the top. Now, what have we done? We added to the investment 704,000. We decreased our investment by 31.5, and we increased it by 280. So let's look at the balance. 148,0500. So 1.4805 million. So, is this investment impaired? Well, impaired means its value has dropped below the value that's sitting in the investment account. Okay? So let's say the fair value is 1.2. Well, that's too high. We've got to write it down to 1.2. But in this case, is it impaired? No. If the balance is smaller than the fair value, it's not impaired. Okay? Because the balance is less than the fair value. If you get confused about is it less than, greater than, that kind of stuff, you guys just think of it logically. This is on your books, right? So if your books, let's say it said your investment was worth $20 million. That will look good on your books, right? But if the fair value was 1.5 million, can you have 20 million in your books? No, it's impaired. We've got to pull it down to 1.5. Think this over, you guys. Some people do a great job at memorizing which way the greater than or less than go and stuff. I just try and think it through logically. Here it says in my books, this is the real value. Well, this is good because it's not overshooting that. Okay? Okay, so that was switching from fair value through profit and loss to equity. The big thing is, if it's not already at fair value, you've got to change it to fair value. Then you can go ahead and record the other stuff, the extra purchase if there was one. Sometimes it's not, right? It's just surrounding information changes, like fewer shareholders are holding the shares. Then we do dividends, net income. We do not do fair value. Now, you guys, just in questions, they will actually say, is it impaired or something like that? Otherwise, you can ignore it. Okay, so that was example 3, including a little bit of review about an impairment. So hopefully that made sense.